It's finally here. I've been working on this for a while, and this is probably definitely the most frustrating and most difficult challenge run I've done so far. And in this challenge run, we're doing Xenoblade 2 Bringer of Chaos with T-elos only. So you'd think this would be pretty easy with how disgusting her damage is, but she's a great axe, so her attacks are pretty slow, and I have her on Rex because I didn't feel like overdrive protocoling her over to Zeke and maxing out her trust. So we had to do it with Rex, so it's even tougher than it normally would be. But if you've watched my other challenge runs, then you know I gotta go over the build, and you know how this is typically gonna go. And if you haven't watched my other challenge runs, what the hell are you doing? Go watch those. For those of y'all who have watched it, I give you the official Mio seal of approval. But let's get into the build. So obviously we have her on Rex, and Rex is going to have Crimson Headband to increase crit damage, because crit damage, we like crit damage. Crit damage is always nice to have. Enlightened Loincloth, just give an extra damage additive, because it increases damage dealt by blades, while blade is the opposite gender by 85%. Rex male, T-elos female, so that's just free 85% damage increase. And Avant-Garde Metal is just a staple that everyone should have regardless of what they're doing, because it's a way to heal yourself and, you know, be self-sustainable without having to use a healer blade. And obviously Nurse Pure Jelly and Ruby Hot Steam Bun for the pouch items, just for insane art recharge. And the secondary buffs, I guess, the physical damage taken and ether damage taken and all that is pretty helpful, but we just basically want it for the art recharge. T-elos herself, she has, I'm pretty sure, a Moon Matter core. No, she has Tachyon Chip to just do as much damage as possible, and it helps with increasing her crit rate by 25%. Now, for her Ox cores, she has Outdoor Attack up. I had this on her earlier. For most of the game, I have Outdoor Attack up because most of the fights happen outside. But once we get into Moritha, I switch Indoor Attack up on her, since the rest of the game is just indoors. It's free damage. Obligatory Devoted Marigoldnea, it's effectively Affinity Max Attack 6 and Crit up 5, or again, more crit rate. And the reason I have Patroka and Sever here is because for their strength mod, if you see down there in the right corner, strength mod of 15% for Patroka and 15% for Sever, and that helps increases Rex strength, see, by 594. If we had literally any other blade, his strength would go down. So it's just there for the strength mods to increase damage, but that's really it. Let's get into the run. Now, again, as with the other challenge runs, I don't start until after chapter 3. I think the start of chapter 4, when we can finally take party members out of the party. So the run doesn't effectively start until then. And the first fight of the challenge run is the Puffets in Uman Shipyard, but those are always pretty easy. So the first real fight is in Brigand's hideout here. And like with my other challenge runs, the beginning fights are always going to be pretty easy because of S+ trust. So we'll be doing high damage, nothing can really hurt us. So a lot of these early fights are going to be relatively the same. And this challenge run was a lot tougher than I had thought it would be. I chose T-elos because I thought it'd be easy because of how much damage she does. But her auto attacks and arts are just so incredibly slow that it's hard to get anything out, especially later on, especially during the Jin and Malos fight. I wanted to quit right there. I got so frustrated with all the knockback, I couldn't even damage him. But this is way more difficult than it seems, and this took me way too long. And this is noticeable almost immediately here in the Lila fight, where I almost died because of how long it takes to do damage with T-elos. And my main source of damage for the run is just going to be spamming Bold Tackle because it is a crit recharge art. So every time either of the two hits crit, it fully recharges the art, so I can just spam it back to back. That's the most effective way of doing damage. It's definitely the fastest since Bold Tackle is the shortest art and it has 2 hits, so we have a pretty decent chance of recharging on either one of the hits, especially if you have a high crit rate. But Lila wasn't too scary. I almost died, but I brought it back pretty quickly. Immediately after Lila, we fight Morag, and it goes about the same way. We just spam Bold Tackle to build up a special and then use a special if we need it. Typically, I'll just use her level 1 off rip as soon as I get it, just for big damage, because her level 1 already does a lot of damage as it is. So, and we don't really have too much trouble. We can typically take care of a lot of early game enemies with just Bold Tackle with 2 hits. They'll normally take it out in 1 art, or Strong Smash will typically one-shot since it has a very high damage multiplier. But overall, Morag and the Ardanian soldiers weren't too hard at all. Next big fight is against the Zekinator, and Knockback is just the bane of Telos's existence. Knockback is her worst enemy because her attacks are already slow as they are, and if you get knocked back in an auto attack or an art, you just gotta do it all over again. So knockback is very, very annoying for Telos, and it's very apparent later on in the run. But Zeke heals pretty easy. Just spam, was it Volt Tackle? Yes, spam Volt Tackle. Bold Tackle, and would just do a lot of damage. And I waited to use my level 2 special here because obviously it has a higher damage multiplier than her level 1, and it has a lot of, its damage multiplier is actually very high. Her level 2 does a lot of damage because of the second hit, or the second phase of it, I guess. She shoots her gun, which each bullet does a very high amount of damage, so string those all together, and then that's a lot of damage. So I was worried I was going to die at least once in this fight, but we pulled through because we're just out here like that. The next big fight, and probably the fight I started struggling on, it's the first fight I started struggling on this early, was Lila 2. Now, I don't think you'll understand how important affinity is. You'll see that later on. You'll definitely see that later on. But having low affinity is very hard to work with. It's very detrimental. Affinity is a very important mechanic in this game, and it definitely shows. But I died to Lila about 3 times here, because not only from a lot of blowdown and a lot of knockback, which is already bad for Telos because of how slow she is, I can almost never get any damage out, which means I can barely heal. Not to mention she has low defenses, so I take a lot of damage. It is very hard to heal because it's not even guaranteed that I heal on a hit whenever I attack. So I died a lot, and having low affinity doesn't help because that decreases the damage I do, decreases the chance that I will crit, which means decreasing the chance that I will heal or recharge Bold Tackle, and it's just very bad. But this fight was pretty tough. I died 3 times, which I don't think I've ever died 3 times on a Lila fight for any challenge run. If that doesn't show how difficult this is with Telos, then I don't know what does. But yes, I was eventually able to beat her. Next fight after Lila 2 is Giga Rosa. Now this fight is a prime example of how good Telos actually is once she's actually able to get in her element and get some momentum. When she doesn't have all this fuck shit against her, like this blowdown, knockback, affinity lowering, it really shows how strong she can be. Now I get through phase 1 in just 2 arts, a Bolt Tackle into a power smash or strong smash, just shows how much damage she does. And when she gets to max affinity, she just goes off, bro. She just goes off. Typically, yeah, just like always, just Bolt Tackle until I get up to a level 1 or level 2. Kira got up to a level 2, and you can really see how much damage a level 2 special does, at least for Telos. And what's extra helpful is at the end of each special for any blade, you'll get a little bit of extra damage for starting a blade combo, and which also puts damage over time on the enemy, which is very helpful. So this is very clutch. T-elos is very nice when she can actually just do what she needs to do instead of getting fucked by all these different reactions and everything. But Giga Rosa goes down without a problem at all. But I can't really say the same for Torna coming up next. Now with the Torna fight, unsurprisingly, having to fight more than one enemy is going to be very tough for T-elos because we'll be taking a lot of damage and won't be able to heal as much damage as we're taking. So we're at a net loss in health because she takes way too much damage and can't even heal all of it back. But for this fight, I get through phase 1 almost immediately. It's not really an issue. Phase 2 is where shit really gets tough. We typically just want to target Mikhail since he will use Crow Taunt, which will lock aggro to him anyway, so it'll just be a waste to attack Petroka. So we want to get Mikhail out as quickly as we can, and as long as our attacks don't get blocked, we're pretty fine. There's not really any blowdown or knockback in this fight, but our attacks getting blocked and clinking does hurt a lot because the animation for getting an attack block is already long enough as it is. That with the startup of T-elos' auto attack really doesn't help. So as long as we don't get our attacks blocked, we're fine until Mikhail becomes enraged, and right before he dies he likes to use Stellar Explosion, and even if you kill him while he's using it, it'll finish and then he dies, so you can't even kill him while he's using it. You can, you know, drain his health bar, but he won't actually die until after he uses it, which is very annoying. So if you don't have evasion to get through it, or unbeatable unlocked on the character's second affinity skills or affinity tree in New Game Plus, you're kind of just fucked. You have to just pray you get unbeatable if you don't have an evasion art, which is kind of the reason why I do a lot of these challenge runs in New Game Plus, because it's kind of hard to do a lot of this in just a regular playthrough because you'd have to pull for blades every single time and it's just tedious. But I actually got unbeatable on the first Stellar Explosion here in the first attempt of the second phase, but Petroka killed me right after I killed Mikhail, and I died to a Stellar Explosion about 3 or 4 more times, and then finally on like the 4th or 5th attempt, something, the attempts don't really matter, but I actually killed him before he used Stellar Explosion. He didn't even go for it, which I was surprised about, and I just had to fight Petroka, and luckily I didn't die against Petroka because just one enemy, it's a hell of a lot easier to deal with than 2. So after we take out Mikhail, Petroka was pretty easy and we beat Torna after so long.
Why is this happening, Mikhail?
And as is tradition with all of my challenge runs, I have to fight this golden aspid in Lefteria while I'm passing through. It's a tradition, it's obligatory for every challenge run. I do it in every challenge run, so here we are. This one was kind of scary. I almost died, but of course Unbeatable came in clutch, and I just absolutely shredded this aspid's health bar. Revenge for all the times I got bodied by him in the past. Now, next big fight before we leave Lefteria is Zeke 2, and he wasn't much more difficult than the first fight with him. And in this fight, I get to truly show how disgusting T-elos' damage is, especially with her level 2 special. You can see how quickly his health drains when I use her level 2, and I didn't even get excellent on it either. So you don't even have to do good in her QTE for her level 2 or any of her specials to do big, massive damage. She's so good. T-elos is the definition of big dick damage. Oh my god, this fight was absolute torture. This fight really highlights T-elos's weaknesses, if anything, it just highlights how strong Jin is. Alright, he not called the Paragon of Torna for nothing. He truly is the strongest blade. He's so incredibly difficult in any challenge run. The biggest roadblock and the hardest part of each challenge run is the Jin fights, because he's just so disgustingly stupid for no reason. It's wild how strong he is, especially in these challenge runs. And this is what I was talking about when I was talking about knockback being the bane of T-elos' existence. Jin likes to start every fight with Ultra Slash, which is a 2-hit art, and each hit on the art knocks back. So that's already a lot of time gone of not doing damage, because while I'm doing my auto attack, before the first auto attack hits, he uses Ultra Slash, and in between all that time, no damage. Plus I have to wait again for her auto attack to hit the second time, which already takes a lot of damage. Not to mention, Jin also has a lot of evasion arts. I'm pretty sure all of his arts have evasion on them except Ultra Slash and Skyward Slash. Speaking of Skyward Slash, it lowers affinity. So you can kind of see where the problem is with this Jin fight. He has insane evasion, he has a lot of knockback, and he has blowdown, a lot of blowdown as well with Empty Moment. He can also driver combo me with Heavenly Disrupt, and Skyward Slash lowers blade affinity, which is very, very important. And unfortunately, for some reason, there is no accessory or aux cord to prevent affinity being lowered. You can use pouch items to increase affinity you get, like increase affinity gain by a certain number of points, but there's no way to negate affinity loss. So as you can imagine, this Jin fight and subsequent Jin fights will be very difficult, as I'll be doing not too much damage comparatively to Jin and healing, because he has a lot of evasion, and a lot of the times it's just terrible timing to where as soon as I use a special, Jin will use an evasion art, so completely nullifying my special that I spent a long time building up. He also has Ultra Slash, which will knock me back, and it can do a lot of damage, especially if I'm at low health. And you know, it takes a while to heal because her auto attacks and even her arts take a while. So if I'm at low damage, she can just kill me with an auto attack. Not to mention the blade affinity lowering isn't really helpful either, because I heal even less, deal even less damage, and it's just not fun. Crit recharge doesn't really work with low to no affinity, and it's just a fucking nightmare. This fight is a nightmare, and all I can really do is just rely on RNG of his arts, you know, stuff missing, me getting my crit recharge, me healing when I need to, not getting my attacks blocked, not missing myself, his knockbacks and blowdowns, resisting, or just timing arts to where, you know, it's not during the time he uses the invasion art, timing my specials to where it's not during an evasion art, and just hoping and praying my affinity doesn't get lowered, and just hoping and praying he doesn't use Skyward Slash back to back like he's done before. Even in this run, it's terrible. So all I can really do is just level up, not too high to make it trivial, but I leveled up quite a bit to kind of balance out all the damage and all the bullshit gimmicks he has and how slow T-elos is. So I do level up a lot to help out. Still pretty difficult even while leveling up, but at least it helps out a little bit. So all I can really do is just sit here and just hope, you know, Klaus gives me the RNG I need, pray to Klaus for good RNG, and that's really about it. But finally, somehow I was able to beat Jin, and I popped off so hard when I finally did. And after that is just the Aishima core itself, which wasn't too difficult now that I don't have all of these stupid gimmicks holding me back. I think this is where I actually started to use Blade Shackle Resist 5, which makes T-elos completely immune to Blade Shackle because one of its moves, Razor Thread, Razor Thread, the Blade Shackle, which means while a blade is shackled, I can't use specials, and it also slowly decreases affinity, which, you know, we kind of need affinity. So I put Blade Shackle 5, which is 100% resistance to Blade Shackle. And the only thing that really was an issue was circuit missiles, which all of them have the chance to blow down, which is very bad because that's a lot of time I'm taking damage and not doing any damage and healing, as well as Blast Hammer, which is its Rage Strike, which typically one-shots. But if I can get an unbeatable through Blast Hammer, we're good, and we take down the Aishmacore, finally getting off of Temperantia. That section of the challenge run, for any challenge run, is always a pain because of Jin.
Why not? Full tackle.
Next is Gigarosa 2, and this is almost as easy as the first fight. I did end up dying here because I just got bad luck, bad RNG. Kabumi Rocket, one of the arts, is a force topple art, and the auto attack that Gigarosa does after, which is a step auto attack, is a launch auto attack. I said auto attack so many times, but auto attack launches after Kabumi Rocket. And I was stuck in launch for quite a while, and then used Bam Bam missiles after that. So a ton of missiles while I was getting bombarded by a ton of missiles while I was in the air, and I actually did end up dying. But in the second attempt, I came back and absolutely just destroyed Gigarosa as bad as the first time. So Gigarosa is always a fun fight for me, not only because it's just fun to see how insane a lot of these blades damage is, but also because Gigarosa is my favorite battle theme in the game, so I get to just jam out to that while bodying Rosa. It's just great. It's just great.
See, Rose? Getting better.
The next fight in the run is against the Tantalese Knights at the bottom of the palace, and as you can expect, this battle went as well as you probably imagine because there are a lot of them, and T-elos is not good against a lot of enemies considering she only has AoE on her level 4 special, which is very hard to get in Bringer of Chaos because special charge has been halved. So I just kind of wailed on them for a while, and then I actually decided to use my brain and develop a strat. So the strat I used after dying over and over again is to get him as close to half HP as I could, and then use Bold Tackle to take him out, because typically Bold Tackle would take care of them. It would do enough damage to where it would kill them if they're around half HP. And the reason I need to be so careful is because when they get to half HP, they become enraged, and when they become enraged, they get evasion for a very, very, very long time. I'm not sure how long it lasts, but it lasts a long time. Once they become enraged, you can't hit them at all. Every attack is evaded. So at first, I would just get them all to around half HP and then just pick them off one by one. Or at first, I would just get it to half HP, move on to the next one, half HP, da 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 da. But it's better to just focus on one at a time, so that way, you know, I'm not getting bombarded with a lot of damage all at once, and just pick them off. So get them to around half HP, Bold Tackle, and I typically want to be at max affinity at this to get as much damage as possible, but it is tough because they do have some knockback and blowdown. But typically it's not too difficult if I just get good RNG, which I did once I started actually implementing the strat, and we got him down pretty quickly actually. Alright, and this fight against Torna and Tantal is probably the second most hype moment in the entire run. I one-cycled Torna, which has never happened in any challenge run ever, I beat him on my first attempt, so that just shows how stupidly disgusting T-elos is. Just thinking about it and talking about this is getting me all hype again, because holy shit, how did I one cycle Torna with a great axe on Bringer of Chaos? That never happens, alright? Oh my god. So I got extremely lucky with RNG here. Not really too much bullshit from any three of them. Surprisingly, this was easier than fighting Petroka and Mikhail in the damn old factory in Morardain. So, okay. This wasn't really too bad. I did get my blade affinity lowered once, and I started freaking out because like, oh shit, this is where I die. I had very low affinity, like the smallest amount of affinity you can have to and still be able to recharge specials. But I had very low affinity, so I was like, okay, this is where I get fucked and have to fight Torna for an hour and a half. But luckily, even with that very low affinity, I got very clutch crit recharge for bold tackle and was able to get him pretty consistently. So I just whittled down Mikhail's health with bold tackle, got him out of there, and then I think I went for Akos next because he does have, I think when he becomes enraged, he does have an art he can use which gives him even more evasion, or even longer than the Tantalese Knights. So I wanted to focus on Akos to get him out of there so he didn't have any evasion. Got through him pretty quickly, and then I just decimated Petroka. This fight was absolutely insane. I don't know how. I'm still confused how I one cycled them. I beat him on my first attempt. I got so lucky with RNG, and it was just the absolute greatest. I actively jumped out of my chair when I beat them, because I was never expecting that to happen. That never happens. I actively jumped up out of my chair. I was so hyped. It was so nutty. Now after all of that, we go into Elpis, and at the bottom of Elpis we fight the Shadow Atoms, which are notorious for being a difficult fight because once they get around a 4th HP, they will use Flectus, which is an evasion art, mind you, and then they spawn 2 more Shadow Atoms. So you can kind of see why this is concerning, because you have multiple use Flectus at the same time. That's a lot of extra Shadow Atoms on the field, and we already established that T-elos is not good with multiple enemies. But the strat for this one was kind of the same with the Tantalese Knights, yet a lot easier because they're a lot closer to low health. So I would focus on one at a time, get them down to around a 3rd health, a 4th, close to a 4th of their health left, and then I would just bold tackle and kill them because it's fast enough to where the second hit will hit them before they can use Flectus. So I don't think any of them used, I think one of them used Flectus because I just timed my shit bad. But other than that, I took out every other Shadow Atom without a problem, surprisingly. So just like with the Torna fight, I one cycled the Shadow Atoms, which I haven't done on any of my other challenge runs. So T-elos is very disgusting. But the next fights after that, not so much. And just like the previous 2 fights, I somehow was able to one cycle Malos here in the Cliffs of Moratha. Now typically Malos is a pretty annoying fight and takes me quite a while, but again, T-elos is just so nasty, and my RNG luck was kind of nice in this fight, so it wasn't too bad. But the issue with Malos is, just like Jin, he likes to open up with Striker Edge, which is a knockback art. Not only that, Malos has Blade Eater, which lowers blade affinity, which we know is, we don't like those, alright? He also has Monado Armor, which increases his block rate and defenses, so he already has an annoying block rate as it is, and more block rate, which means more of our attacks are being blocked, which we know is already bad for T-elos. Not only that, he also has Monado Cyclone, which is a blowdown art, which just doesn't help because it takes a while to get back up from blowdown. And he can just do a lot of damage, especially if he gets a Rage Strike Monado Buster, which I don't think he did, We did get Monauto Buster, but it wasn't a Rage Strike, and we did survive it. I almost died at the end, but luckily T-elos came in clutch with her level 1 special, and we beat Malos surprisingly on the first attempt. And this fight is always the scariest fight in any challenge run I ever do in the entire game. This is the fight I always scared of the most and always takes the longest time because this is the most difficult. With how difficult Malos is with all of his bullshit I just listed, paired with all of Jin's bullshit which I listed earlier, you can tell that this isn't a fun fight at all. There's a lot of knockback everywhere with Ultra Slash from Jin, and Malos has Striker Edge. They like to open up with those arts at the very beginning of the fight every single time. So that's 3 knockback hits. That's a lot of damage where I can't be attacking or healing. Not only that, both of them have ways to lower blade affinity. So I'm at very low to no affinity the entire fight every single attempt because it's hard to build up affinity if I can't spam bold tackle with the crit recharge. I get affinity pretty well like that, but with low affinity I almost get no crit recharge and almost no healing because I have no affinity. So that with having no affinity plus all the block rate, or not block rate, plus all of the knockback and just a lot of the bullshit that both of them have, this fight takes very, very long, and you only need to get Malos down to half HP to progress to the second phase. But that's difficult because every time I'm close to getting him down to half HP, Jin will use Demon Cloak, which again is a taunt art which locks all aggro to him, so I can't attack Malos. And we already know Jin isn't fun to fight with T-elos, so it's just an entire cycle of just endless bombardment of bullshit against Rex. And T-elos is slow, so it's very hard to do anything. And a couple of times I do get lucky with RNG and get up to max affinity and even up to a level 2. For some reason I thought her level 2 was AoE, which I'm pretty sure I've seen it hit AoE, but I could just be misremembering. But this fight was very, very, very annoying. It was just a gauntlet. It was just a gauntlet of getting good RNG, just praying a lot of the knockback and all the other bullshit didn't happen. I spent collectively probably 2 hours on this fight. I had done this fight right after the Malos fight, but I was so frustrated with it that I had just stopped and dropped the challenge run for like a week. I just didn't even touch the challenge run for a week because this fight is so bullshit and difficult. It is so incredibly difficult for no reason. So it's very, very annoying. But eventually, after rage quitting one time and getting very frustrated, I rage quit twice actually during this fight. That one time where I dropped it for like a week, and then today when I was finishing it, I almost broke my TV because I was so pissed off at this fight. It is not fun at all. But finally I beat it, went on to the second phase, which is a forced, the second phase is scripted. We use the entire party and we use Numa, and there's no way to die. So that second phase is always, a touchy point for these challenge runs. And as I've said over and over again, it's mandatory. We have to use the whole party as well as Numa. So this doesn't disqualify the challenge run. And also this. The next major fight is the fight against Galea inside of Torna down in Moritha. Now, we can't take Jin out of the party for this whole section of Moritha, so again, this doesn't disqualify the challenge run because we physically can't take him out. But I actually got my first ever level 4 special throughout the entire challenge run in this fight, so it was pretty smooth. Galea doesn't really have anything that can hurt me. I mean, her attacks do relatively low damage compared to everything, and she doesn't have any gimmicks like blowdown, knockback, blade lowering, blade affinity lowering, so I was able to breeze through her pretty quickly. I got very consistent bow tackles and even got up to a level 4, which didn't really matter because I used the level 4 during the transition to phase 2, but it was pretty smooth. And then in phase 2, again, just like phase 2 of the Jin and Malos fight, it is mandatory to have the entire party and I can't take them out. So again, this does not disqualify the run, but I did get through it pretty quickly because I have all 3 party members and 2 of them were at level 99.
Strong smash.
We will finish this.
Blade combo, third stage. Awesome. Heaven's bolt topple.
After we climb the world tree and fight a couple of Indal people, the next major fight is Jin 3, which, yeah, this isn't going to be fun. So on top of everything he has in the first 2 fights, he's got new abilities now. He has Zero Zone, which nullifies heal, which means I can't heal, which is already fun. Bladeless Blade, which is another blowdown art, just like Heavenly Disrupt, or not Heavenly Disrupt, Empty Moment, which in Bladeless Blade has way more knockback or blowdown, which thankfully he didn't use a single time through any of these attempts. So just like with Temperantia, I had pretty difficult time for all the same reasons, but I actually had an easier time with him here than I did in Temperantia, surprisingly. He did use Heavenly Disrupt on me a couple times, and then he would use, and if I survived it with Unbeatable, he would use Zone 0, which nullifies heal, which means I couldn't heal. I was stuck at 1 HP. So, and there's no way I'd be able to do enough damage to either kill him before he hits me through Unbeatable or nullify heal runs out. So he was pretty difficult. I did have to level up a lot in order to even stand a chance, but I finally did beat him surprisingly quicker than the last fight with him on Temperantia. And then after that comes the fight with Amalthus, and oh my god, the ending of this fight was the most hype section in the entire run. I already uploaded a Twitter clip of this, so you might know what I'm talking about. But Amalthus, he's not really too scary. The only scary part about him, and the part I worry about every single challenge run, is when he uses Sacred Arrow, because that will one-shot no matter what. It will always one-shot because its damage multiplier is just so damn high. So you either have to have an evasion art, level 4 special, or clutch with Unbeatable. Now I did the first attempt, I was able to use my level 4. Actually, no, the first time I used my level 4 during his Rage Strike of 1000 weight or 1000 tentacles, and then he Sacred Arrowed after, and I died. I should have just saved the level 4 for Sacred Arrow, which is what I did. So the strat was to build up my level 4 special and save it for when he uses Sacred Arrow, and then use the evasion of that during Sacred Arrow so I can survive that, because you'll typically only use Sacred Arrow once through a fight. But I got scared of the Rage Strike and I used it early and died to Sacred Arrow. The second attempt, I kind of just died to a Rage Strike 1000 tentacles again. And then I think it only took me 3 or 4 times, but the last attempt I was able to clutch out very, very hard. And I'm not going to explain the ending, I just want y'all to see it for yourselves and just see how utterly clutch this whole ending was. It was mind-blowingly clutch.
Bull tackle. Power swipe.
Sacred arrow.
Bull tackle. Power swipe. No effect. Yeah. Bull tackle.
You don't want to beat my power.
Power swipe.
Get
Strong
hero.
smash.
Yes!
And then after we beat the shadow fights, once we meet Klaus, the final battle against Ion in Xenoblade 2. Now, this fight was pretty easy. This was a bit of a pushover, unsurprisingly, because T-elos, once she's able to do what she needs to do without too many gimmicks and everything, just slowing her down, she is a fucking tank in power. She is absolutely disgusting, one of the highest hitting blades in the game. I'm pretty sure she does the most damage in the game under the right conditions. She can damage cap on her specials and even on some of her arts if you have the right setup. One of her skills allows her to pierce every single attack. All of her auto attacks, arts, and specials pierce. So that just helps, completely disregarding enemy defenses, which is why she's so strong in the first place. Just pierces everything, which is very nice. And once she gets to max affinity and gets pretty consistent bolt tackles, she can get off a lot of her specials, and all of her specials do very high damage, especially her level 4, which I use a couple times here. And near the end, I actually survived the Siren Buster, surprisingly. I thought I was gonna get one shot by Siren Buster like I do in every other challenge battle or challenge run, but surprisingly it didn't really even do all that much. It got me down to around a third or under. I was close to dying, but I wasn't really worried because I knew I could just heal up with one bolt tackle anyway. But near the end, when he called in the servants, I just completely ignored the servants and just focused on Ion, and I finally clutched. Unclimactically, I finished the fight in an unclimactic way. I wanted to finish it off with a level 4 special, but I had messed up and used it earlier. So we just finished him off with a bold tackle. But yes, I finally beat Ion.
Strong smash. Full tackle.
You mean that?
Power swipe. See, Gramps? Getting better.
And there the shit it is. There the fuck it is. I beat Bringer of Chaos, Xenoblade 2 Bringer of Chaos with T-elos only. It is possible. It's just very, very difficult and very annoying. It takes a lot of patience to do this. This was definitely the most frustrating and most difficult challenge run I've ever done, and it also took me the longest because of how frustrating it is. Now, I typically have a lot of patience for challenge runs like this, but this one was really testing me. All right, I thought it'd be easy with T-elos because she's just so disgusting with her damage, but oh my god, is she slow. But there it is, I beat it. It is possible with T-elos. Now, I did make a poll on YouTube in one of my community posts a couple days ago, I think last week, asking if y'all wanted to see a challenge run of, you know, Bringer of Chaos with Cosmos only this time, because it'll only be fair, just even it out. I did T-elos, I gotta do the other Xenosaga character, and an overwhelming majority of you said yes. So my next challenge run is going to be Cosmos. Thankfully, this one is going to be a lot shorter, or it's going to take a lot less time to beat, and will be a lot easier because Cosmos is nowhere near as slow, and she's not affected by block rate like or anything like that, and her specials are very strong, especially her level 2. I don't want to spoil anything yet, but I haven't started working on that, but I'm going to work on that almost immediately after this one. So the Cosmos challenge run should be out pretty soon after this T-elos run, and then after T-elos, or after the Cosmos run, I'm going to do Torna Bringer of Chaos with only Mithra like I had promised. Since y'all seem to enjoy the Brigid run, I wanted to do a Mithra run. And then after that Mithra run, I will finally be working or starting on my Xenoblade 3 challenge run. I know I was saying that many times before, I'm gonna work on Xenoblade 3 challenge run, Xenoblade 3, but this time I'm actually going to work on the Xenoblade 3 challenge run. Now that Mosh is out, it'll be a lot easier, hopefully. So next, so the videos to look out for coming up next, I have Cosmos challenge run, Mithra challenge run, and then finally my first ever Xenoblade 3 challenge run, which might take a while. But I'm so glad I finally finished this one and got it out, and I hope y'all enjoyed this one. It was a nightmare, but we finally made it, and I'm back with the content. So for the long-awaited outro, as always, thanks for watching. Have a damn good day. Stay safe, be well, and play some goddamn Xenoblade.